Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. I've had several people reach out to me over the past few days and ask if I was going to cover the arrest of Ruby Franke. She is the mother behind the YouTube channel 8 Passenger, as well as the arrest of her friend Jody Hildebrandt. I was never a follower of the YouTube channel 8 Passenger or the IG account Moms of Truth, so I really had no idea what was happening or who the two even were. But since then, I went down the rabbit hole of this whole mess and really got to know what exactly has been happening over the past few years with this family. So we are going to discuss the arrest of Ruby and Jody and what exactly has been happening with this family and the children. But before we jump into that, I do want to take it back just a little bit and talk about family vlogging channels and explain what the general concerns have been and show how the 8 Passenger channel garnered much more serious concerns and why this arrest should have happened years ago. So family vlogging channels have been around almost since the beginning of this platform. YouTube launched February 14, 2005. The very next year, a man named Shay Carl started his channel, and it later will become the very first family vlogging channel in 2008 after he got married and had kids. Since then, channels like the Ace family, the Hildebrandt family, Doherty Dozen, and several others have popped up. In the beginning, it seemed the channels received positive feedback and grew quickly. However, as time went on and more family channels popped up, the viewers took notice of some problematic behaviors happening within the household of these families. And at the same time, more and more child actors began speaking out about the exploitation and abuse they endured being a child star and becoming the breadwinner of their family.
Do you feel like you missed out on a normal childhood?
What childhood?
It definitely seems that the appeal of a family channel is more so the family or the children and not necessarily the parents. And the views back up the idea that the videos that bring in the most views are the ones centered around the child or the children. Because of this, it seems there's a lot of pressure on the parents to pump out as much content as possible with the kids. Now that brought up the question, are the parents forcing the children who are too young to consent to trade their privacy and their childhood in exchange for their parents' financial gain? A lot of people became concerned that the kids were not getting to be kids and instead they were forced to film hours upon hours out of the day just to ensure that the parents could either pay their bills or live a lavish lifestyle. The past few years, viewers have really held a microscope on these family vloggers, with channels popping up on YouTube just to call these channels out. They're content creators whose content is solely based on highlighting family vlogging channels and why they should be canceled. The main concern being brought up by the anti-family vlogging channel community are, if the family is including a child extremely young, then clearly that child cannot consent to being filmed. Are the parents forcing their kids to be filmed? Are the kids given any privacy? Or is everything being used as content? Adults also acknowledge that we all go through stages in our adolescence that we are just embarrassed by. But these family vlogging channels, they film these kids from birth until they move out of the house. So these embarrassing stages are forever on the internet. Like I said, most of the concern is that parents are unintentionally or indirectly hurting their children. However, the concern viewers had for the children of Ruby Franke were much more serious and much more sinister. So who exactly is Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrandt, and why were they arrested? Well, Ruby Franke is a 41-year-old Mormon mother of 6. The ages of her children range from 10 to 20. She is from Ivins, Utah. She was active across several social media platforms, but she is best known for her YouTube channel. Ruby and her husband Kevin launched their channel in 2015 called 8 Passengers. At the time, her kids were only 1, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. The concept of the channel was to follow Ruby and her husband as they raised their 6 young children while also dealing with the many struggles that comes along with having so many children. Ruby would often give advice on how she managed, and a lot of her parenting techniques or her parenting styles was based off religious beliefs, or so she said. Now, the 8 Passengers YouTube channel was removed earlier this year, and at the time that the channel was removed, Ruby had posted over 1,000 videos, some documenting intimate moments in the family's life to much more mundane topics. Before the channel was removed, it had amassed a following of 2.3 million subscribers. Now, I have a feeling that a lot of these viewers were more concerned with the well-being of the children and watched just to make sure that they were okay versus watching to support Ruby and Kevin. Now, that's just my opinion. Some of the most watched videos on the channel show the children in their most vulnerable moments of their adolescence. Moments where they were learning how to shave, trying on clothes, recovering from injuries, and being disciplined by their parents.
Can I push you?
No.
I kick you?
No.
What if you're in my way and I want to kick you? What happens?
Well, did you know somebody was in my way in line and then they kicked me and stomped me?
Well, did you know that Russell was in your way today and you hurt him so badly he had to come home?
Eve, everybody has a space around them that is their boundary, and you can't go past it because you can hurt them.
What if I took my hand and I hit you like that? Would that be crossing the boundary? Yeah.
Is that okay to do?
Is that okay? But what if I really am in a hurry and I just don't like you being there? I have a really, really good reason for just getting in your boundary.
You can't do that. Well, if you do that, that's mean.
Mm-hmm.
But why do you do that to other people?
I'm sorry.
I'm glad to hear you're sorry. You have a lot of people to tell you're sorry to. Look at it.
No! Mom, she'll be crying. No!
Where
is it? Don't! Don't! She'll be crying all day, seriously.
Okay. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. Look at me. No, you look at me. Look at Mama. If you cut one more thing in my house, I'm going to take the scissors, look at me, and I'm going to cut its head off.
Grandma will be so mad.
So what are you going to do?
Are you gonna cut anything else? No.
Anyone that's ever been disciplined in front of their friends understands how embarrassing that can be. Those moments for the Franke kids was filmed and put out for the world to see.
I'm gonna go get dressed for football.
You're going to have to go find your shorts. Oh, did you see the socks you threw at the side of the garden? And you are not going anywhere unless you pick up your junk. You've got crap strewn all around. Now, so you see, now I'm using bad language. That's how bad of a mood I'm in. You get your socks picked up and don't you leave your stuff out anymore. Right over there. Run and go pick them up. And then give me 10 push-ups. Put them in your pocket so you can take them down to the hamper and drop and give me 10.
1.
Put your hands straight out. They're in. They're not supposed to be out. Shape your hands forward. There you go. 1, 2, down further. Bring your butt down.
And she woke up and I thought, you know what? I'm not going to wake her up because every time I wake her up, she gets super grumpy and upset and I have to literally drag her and get her dressed. And she's old enough to do that herself. And she missed preschool. She slept in and she woke up and she's like, I'm ready to go to preschool. I said, you know what? Preschool's over. You slept through it. I'm sorry. And she's like, what? And I said, you need to get up and get ready if you're going to go to preschool because I'm not going to drag you out of bed. And
She can't control when she wakes up.
apparently she can.
No, because I
As the family's channel grew more concern grew for the children. Content creators on YouTube took notice of Ruby's strict parenting, as well as her parenting advice. A lot of the content was pretty alarming. As followers learned more, it became apparent that the kids were not safe. Throughout the content on the channel, there were several videos that caused alarm to their viewers. One video in particular showed the family on an outing to the supermarket, which would seem pretty harmless. However, Ruby decided to bring her 3-year-old daughter along for the shopping trip wearing nothing but a diaper. Now, I don't even have to tell you guys how that would be a dumb move, considering her daughter is 3. You bring her out in nothing but a diaper. There are creepy people online. There's creepy people out in the supermarket. You just don't bring your child into the supermarket wearing no clothes. That's just dumb. So obviously that got a lot of attention and she got a lot of backlash for that. In one video where Ruby was giving parenting tips and techniques, she spoke about one of her boys who had gotten in trouble at school and gotten suspended.
Where did you go?
Escalating.
Okay, why did you go there?
Because I was a bad boy.
That's not true.
That's true.
Sorry, I'm totally triggered because I try to teach him, like, everyone's a good boy because you are divine.
We make choices that aren't good, but that doesn't make you not good. What kinds of things did you eat?
It was all vegan. No offense to the vegans, but it sucked.
Did you immediately love it?
That was saucy.
Or did it take some time to get used to it?
I kind of just accepted it.
And we pulled into, they had our parking spot. They were
Surrounding our parking spot.
I guess sometimes they have runners.
Just got out of the car, shook everyone's hand. Okay, say goodbye.
Since being away from technology for so long, how does it feel to be back on camera?
Natural muscle memory of 7-8 years of filming, it just came back. Notice that I'm relapsing and going back to what I've done in the past and being able to.
She sent him away to a behavioral camp for 49 days where he was stuck out into the wilderness with little gear. Viewers felt that this was excessive punishment. Now, this camp was mainly aimed at problematic kids with drug problems. In 2020, their son Chad spoke out about a situation where he had pulled a prank on his brother. He had packed a bag for his brother and told him that the family was going to Disneyland. Unfortunately, Ruby did not find this prank funny, and she punished her son by kicking him out of his room, taking his bed, and making him sleep on a beanbag for 7 months. Sleeping on the beanbag for so long caused issues with Chad's spine. Now, according to Ruby and Kevin, a bed in a bedroom is a privilege. And if your children misbehave, they can lose the privilege of having a bed in a bedroom. There was another video that Ruby had put out where she discussed teaching your children to be responsible. She brought up a situation with her 6-year-old daughter who forgot to grab her lunch on the way to school.
Just got a text message from Eve's teacher, and she said that Eve did not pack a lunch today, and can I bring a lunch over to the school? This happens quite often when you're raising children, because I know that her teacher is uncomfortable with her being hungry and not having a lunch, and it would ease her discomfort if I came to the school with a lunch. But I responded and just said, Eve is responsible for making her lunches in the morning, and she actually told me she did pack a lunch. So the natural outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry. And hopefully nobody gives her food and nobody steps in and gives her a lunch.
Obviously, Ruby did get a lot of backlash, but she defended her decision on withholding food as a form of punishment to her children.
Was to leave the house clean, and my kids are literally starving. I hesitate to say this because it's going to sound like I'm like a mean barbarian, but I told the kids, I said, I'm not even going to let you eat breakfast until you get your chores done.
To tell you this, honey, but unless you find a friend who's willing to share some of their food with you, I don't think you're going to be able to eat. But if you're not responsible for your lunch and your lunch money, that's the natural consequence. And I'm really sorry you're learning this the hard way. Just hang in there today and just make up your mind you're going to be really careful and make sure you grab your stuff when you go to school next time. And maybe you have a good friend who will share some of their sandwich with you or something. Russell, I'm really sorry. He sounded like he was going to cry.
Can I give you some breakfast?
You don't need food.
Now, after these two incidents, CPS launched an investigation into the family. However, CPS closed the case, citing not enough evidence was found. There were rumors that Ruby did not allow her kids to have many clothes, and what they did get, they had to buy themselves.
You want to work at Taco Bell?
I don't know.
Where else?
I need a
Like, do you
job
want to be like?
because I need to buy clothes, and mom is like, I'm not buying clothes for you. You have to buy your own clothes, and I need clothes bad.
Do you want to be like a grocery person or like a restaurant?
Ruby also spoke on her channel about how if they were close to a holiday and the children were misbehaving, they could just skip the holiday. There was one instance where the family skipped Christmas because the kids were not acting right, or they were not repenting enough. The 8 years the channel was up, Ruby received a lot of criticism. Like I said before, other creators made videos highlighting Ruby's abuse. And each time a creator spoke out about Ruby, Ruby tried to silence them by threats of legal action. One YouTuber named Sloan released the email from the family's attorney threatening to sue him for defamation if he did not remove his content about the family. In May 2020, a petition was started with Change.org to have CPS launch an investigation into Ruby and Kevin Franke. The petition highlighted Ruby Franke's problematic behavior and criticized her parenting style, saying that she was in fact abusive to her children. The petition broke down videos where things were said or done that appeared to be upsetting or abusive. instances were brought up of where the children were being mistreated or their punishment seemed disproportionate. Now, like I said, we do know that CPS launched an investigation. However, it was closed shortly after. In 2020, the family seemingly left YouTube. Considering the controversy that surrounded the family, one would consider their absence a good thing. But unfortunately, it seemed that Ruby was up to something much more nefarious. Before leaving YouTube, Ruby had posted a video on her channel saying that she would not be focusing on her YouTube channel as much as she was getting more involved with the mental health community. Kind of ironic, right? Around that same time, Ruby started appearing in a video series called Connexions Classroom. Connexions was a training program developed by Jody Hildebrandt. According to the site, the Connexions curriculum was designed to help treat those lost and stranded in the darkness of distortion, which addiction, fear, sadness, and all other self-destructive behaviors derive from. The Connexions curriculum strives to help individuals take responsibility for their thoughts, feelings, and actions in a way that will help their relationships thrive. However, the problem with Connexions is the lack of credentials and necessity to adhere to state laws. Ruby and Kevin began working with Jody Hildebrandt and quickly became the face of Connexions. Jody Hildebrandt describes herself as an author, educator, and mother. However, just as controversy surrounded Ruby Franke, it also followed Jody Hildebrandt as well. In 2012, Jody was put on probation and was at risk of losing her license as a clinical mental health counselor. The probation occurred because Jody violated her patient's privacy and even took to blackmailing him. The patient, whom we will call John Doe, began marriage counseling with Jody in 2008. The patient quickly realized that he was getting nothing out of the counseling. Jody accused the patient of being a porn addict, which he denied. Jody was charging the couple between $1,200 to $2,000 a month for their therapy sessions. When John Doe began questioning her counseling, she turned to blackmail. She discussed his fictitious addiction with members of his church as well as BYU officials in an attempt to hurt his personal life. As a result of violating state laws by disclosing classified info, Jody was put on probation for 18 months. Jody started Connexions January 2007. Her website says, "My style is compassion yet direct and clear." Jody ran her business for years before meeting Ruby and Kevin and inviting them in to join the company. Ruby threw herself into the company 1,000%. She filmed workshops to post to the company's social media accounts. She started a mom support group. She offered one-on-one training for those seeking help. Given Jody's history, Ruby's involvement in Connexions began to concern some. And the concern only grew when Kevin and Ruby filmed a video for the company in which they admitted to pulling their 10-year-old son and their 8-year-old daughter out of school. And instead of sending them to school, they kept them home, making them clean floors all day. A neighbor actually spoke on this after Ruby was arrested, saying that the little girl would knock on his door during school hours asking to play with his kids. And he was shocked. He was like, "Well, they're at school." And the little girl would say, "Well, I'll wait." The neighbor says at the time, Ruby wasn't even home, that she would leave the kids home alone all the time.
Come spend 2 days with us in southern Utah, hiking, jet skiing, engaging in training sessions and one-on-one coaching, or spend 2 days with us in Lake Havasu, enjoying training sessions, one-on-one coaching, good food, and boating. Go deeper quicker with this life-on-life training, where you will be spending all day and evening with Jody and myself, getting the help that you need. Hey, let me in. Is someone running circles around you in your life? Jody's running circles around me. She says it's all gonna be good.
Wow. Wonder where the kids were. They definitely weren't on this trip.
And it would be at those times that the kids would kind of be roaming around the neighborhood. By mid-2022, things took a drastic turn when Connexions became more extreme and cult-like. Ruby and Jody began expressing shocking ideals of homophobia, transphobia, racism, and ableism. They went as far as to encourage people to cut off their own family members that did not agree with their beliefs. They held parental workshop, teaching parents that their children were evil and manipulative, and stated that a parent has no obligation to love, support, nurture, or care for their own children. and that a parent's only duty is to teach their children about Jesus and save them by any means necessary. Now, at this point of 2022, 2 of the children were over the age of 18. Sherry, the oldest, their daughter, was now 20 years old, and their next oldest, their son Chad, was 18. While followers knew that their oldest had moved out years before, no one knew for sure if Chad had moved out, and rumors were starting to circulate that not only had Chad moved out, but Kevin had as well. So their oldest daughter took to social media to address these rumors. In her Instagram story, she said, "I know that there are many rumors circulating online about my family. While it is true I'm not in contact with my immediate family and I don't support the extreme beliefs of Connexions, please remember that this is my real family. Despite good intentions, speculating, rumors, and gossip does not help us. I like to ask for privacy for me and my family as we work through this very difficult situation. Please know that many are working on the situation, and I hope one day we can be whole again. Please respect my privacy as I work through my own healing as well." At this point, it seemed that the family was kind of torn apart. The oldest was estranged from the family. The next oldest was no longer living with the family, and nobody knew really where he was or how he felt. And the dad, or the husband, Kevin, he's left as well. And he seems to not have anything to do with any of the children. But Ruby did not seem to mind, as her and Jody continued to say and post problematic content online. Now, Ruby would eventually address her estrangement with her oldest daughter, saying that it was her decision to cut contact with her daughter because her daughter did not love her unconditionally. Despite the fact that Ruby had said multiple times that parents have no obligation to love or nurture their children, she is using the excuse that her daughter did not love her unconditionally as a reason to cut contact with her. So, according to Ruby, the child that you bring into this world, you have to do nothing more than to teach about Jesus. You do not have to feed, you do not have to love, you do not have to nurture, but they must love you unconditionally. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. In this video, where she discussed her estrangement, she admitted that she loved the principles of Connexions more than she loved her own children. I'm going to guess she loved those principles more than she loved her husband as well, which is probably why he left. At this point, the major concern became the 4 children still living in the house with Ruby. It appeared once Kevin left, he forgot all about his minor children and left them in the care of a woman that gives Lori Vallow vibes. Despite many people contacting CPS, we would later learn that several people did. Nothing was ever done to save those children until recently. In late August, around 10:50 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, Ruby Franke's 12-year-old son climbed out of a window of Jody Hildebrandt's home. He ran to a neighbor's house asking for food and water. The neighbor immediately noticed duct tape around the child's ankle and wrist and called the police. The responding officer said the child appeared severely malnourished and had sustained deep lacerations from being tied up with a rope.
He said a 12-year-old male showed up with tape around his legs Thursday asking for help, said he was afraid asking for police. Deborah, he gave the name of Franke, unknown date of birth, or he did give us a date of birth, but I'm not showing any relevance film in. I'll keep looking into that. The RP said he left through the porch of the neighbor's house. Stamp floor break 12x11 and 17, just 1014. The male does have duct tape around each ankle. He's not telling the RP why, and said that there's sores around his wrists and ankles. He's becoming, or correction, the RP is becoming emotional regarding the child's health. I'm going to go ahead and have medical stage on this one. Or 17, sorry. The RP said that he left from a neighbor's Jody Hildebrandt in Ivan's 54-year-old female. Not sure if they're related. When asking the RP's parents, has always said his mom is Ruby Franke, unknown where she lives. 12x11, 12x17. I do have a Ruby Franke spelling with an E on the end of Franke address out of Springville. Only involvement was a traffic offense a couple of days ago. He's also saying that there's 2 of his sisters are back at the home as well. RP and the Juve are going to be sitting out on the front porch. No visible weapons. The male is currently wearing a long sleeve with shorts. And medical's 23 as well.
10-4-18, 3 minutes. Medical's in front of me. Hey, 314. The wounds on his leg are pretty good. 10-4. Can you run a Rose Frank?
Confirming Rose Frankie.
12X511, 314, medical is going to transport him. Said that his wounds are in need of immediate care.
Copy. Control, 12X4, you show myself in 5 heading that way.
I don't have any Rose Frankies coming back in Stillman or in Utah. I did find a Ruby Frankie, which I sent to 12X11, showing an address out of Springville. However, only involvement is a traffic offense a couple days ago.
10-4. Control 12X11, 314 as well. The child looks very emaciated. 17, this is 3. Will you just make sure that nothing happens until you get people there to look at what's going on? 4, you want medical to hold off to transport to the hospital? We need to get some photographs first. Yeah, if he's alert and breathing, just hang out and wait for us, please.
After doing a little digging, it looks like that 27 I sent you for Ruby Frankie is going to be the one that is associated with the Jody Hildebrandt. They're both showing a therapist from Salt Lake and associated through social media as well.
12X1711, can you head over here to the road? 10-4. Control 12X11, what's the address for that Jody Hildebrandt? Do you have an address for her in Kansas?
Yeah, 10-4, she's just a few streets up showing the address of.
Copy.
If mom really is Ruby, I threw her 21 in the call as well from her 27.
Control 12X11, does she have an address in Springville?
Yeah, 10-4, she's showing up in Salt Lake. Per her Facebook, her and Jody both are therapists showing addresses up or locations for their work up in Salt Lake as well.
Copy, 10-4, that's going to be the mom.
Looks like we did have an involvement with mom on the 25th of this month. It was a traffic offense in a white Honda. Also in the 28 Tier Cat as well.
Control, about what time did this get called in?
The call was created at 11:02. 12X11, I think I may have found Dad. Also a Kevin Frankie address out of Springville.
Copy.
Just 1049 did run also a vehicle search on Jody. She's showing a white Lexus ES sedan.
That's going to be there. She's was the one that pulled up next to me on the road. Control 12X11, can you hold there? We're searching the house. Holman, you have 3 and 1 that are coming up behind you.
The boy was then transported to a local hospital while police searched Jody Hildebrandt's home. There they discovered another child of Ruby's, the 10-year-old daughter, who also appeared to be malnourished. She also was taken to the hospital. After finding the 10-year-old daughter at Jody Hildebrandt's home, they then searched Ruby Frankie's home, where they found the other 2 children as well. According to a press release from the Santa Clara Islands Public Safety Department, in total, all 4 of Ruby's children were removed and placed into the care of the Department of Children and Family Services. Ruby and Jody were both arrested on suspicion of 2 felony counts of aggravated child abuse. Ruby declined to speak with officers and requested an attorney, according to the affidavit. A judge granted a detective's request for Ruby to be held in jail without bond. Ruby's oldest daughter has been posting about her mother's arrest on her Instagram stories. On Wednesday night, she shared a photo of officers at her childhood home and the caption, "Finally." She later shared that she and her family were so glad that justice is being served and has been trying to tell the police and CPS for years about this. She also called for help collecting links to questionable or concerning videos featuring her mother and shared a link to a Google Doc filled with public contributions. Ruby Frankie's 3 sisters, who were also family influencers, said in a joint statement that the arrest needed to happen. They said, "For the last 3 years, we have kept quiet on the subject of our sister Ruby, for the sake of her children. Behind the public scene, we have done everything that we could to try to make sure the kids were safe. The kids are now safe, which is the #1 priority." 2 neighbors also spoke out about Ruby Frankie as well. They say that they, as well as others who live near the family, have long been worried for the safety of the children, and that neighbors in the community have previously alerted the Utah Division of Child and Family Services. A male neighbor said, "Everyone is just breathing a collective sigh of relief because we thought they were going to come out of that house with body bags." In a video shared with NBC News, law enforcement officers surrounded the home with guns drawn. In a second video, at least 7 police vehicles lined the street. NBC News saw a photo provided by a neighbor showing what appeared to be a hole in the home's front door. Also, according to the neighbors, they say that Ruby kicked her husband Kevin out of the home last year. They also claim that after her husband was out of the home, Ruby would leave the house for weeks at a time and leave the children inside. One neighbor said, "I remember that she took away Christmas one year." One male neighbor recalled how Ruby's youngest daughter, Eve, who was about 10 years old, would wander the neighborhood while her mother was away for prolonged periods after she kicked their dad, Kevin, out of the house. The little girl would look for companions in the community, the neighbor said. He also brought up the fact that she was not attending school. He said she would just knock on the door and say, "Hey, can your kids come play?" And we were like, "Well, they're at school. They won't be home for 3 or 4 hours." And the little girl would respond, "I'll wait." He added she was like a lost child. A female neighbor said she and others in the community had tried to get authorities to intervene for at least a year. The female neighbor said she thought things were bad for the children, but she said she was deeply upset to learn about the conditions they were found in. She said, "I'm really angry because I spoke up, others spoke up, and nothing happened." The female neighbor said that she and others in the neighborhood asked the Utah Division of Children and Family Service to intervene multiple times. The neighbor says she made an initial call to CPS around September 2022. She then got a voicemail in response, which she did share the voicemail with NBC News. In the voicemail, a person who identified herself as working for CPS said she was talking with someone who had some concerns about someone in your area. After that, she said she saw authorities making a wellness check. However, she said no one answered the door for the officers. At some point after the officers left, papers were put up in the windows of the home. The female neighbor says that she hopes that the children know that some members of the Springville community have long hoped that authorities would step in and help them. She said, "I want those kids to know that the community loves them and wants them to be safe." If people knew the amount of tears and time spent talking with law enforcement and CPS over the last year, I want people to understand that. And I want those kids to know that because I think they thought they were abandoned. It really just makes you question if so many calls were put into CPS by siblings, by relatives, by viewers, by neighbors. Why was nothing done about this? At the end of the day, those children could have been saved years prior. So I personally feel like this is a huge fail for CPS. A lot of people are coming forward saying, "Listen, we tried. The evidence was there. If you watch the channel, you saw her talk about her parenting techniques, withholding food, taking the bed. All the evidence was there, in my personal opinion. So this is really wild that it took this long. At the end of the day, these children are going to need a lot of therapy. They're going to need a lot of love. I have heard that the dad is trying to get the children, but in my personal opinion, he is just as guilty. He sat back and allowed Ruby to punish these children in ways that most people would not agree with. I will continue to keep you guys updated on this story as more comes out. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel if you want to keep up with the story. Give this video a thumbs up if you feel like it was a well put together video and you got a lot of information out of it. It will really help me with the YouTube algorithm. And yeah, make sure you subscribe, thumbs up, and I will see you guys in the next one.